Hello, Playdate. Welcome to episode 3. My name is Don.
My name is Nick.
And my name is Ryan. I'm back.
He's back. Our hopefully somewhat often third chair. Our kind of temporary, but hopefully somewhat regular. Yeah, regular third chair. Yeah, that's okay way to say it.
We'll say regular for now. We'll say something. I'm making no commitments, but maybe I'll see you again.
Our uncommitted, but we're happy to have him back. Ryan Clater of elephanteater.com. He was on our first episode, and he's back to talk about some games this week. Something we wanted to talk about, Ryan, we spoiled it. Well, we talked about it a little bit before you hopped on, but we want some listener feedback. So listeners, email us, helloplaydatepodcast@gmail.com. Do you like having the names of the season games in the episode title? Or we could put, season 1, week 3 as the episode 3, season 1, week 3. To me, that's not super descriptive. My personal feeling is I like having them in there, but Ryan, do you have a take?
Yeah, I have heard that iTunes and maybe others do not like it when you put episode numbers in there, like season 1, episode 3. They prefer that you put something descriptive and leave out the episode numbers. So if that's of any consideration to you, iTunes says do that. But I think a description is nice. I personally like to have a numbering system. I like to know what number podcast episode I'm listening to and how many I've yet to listen to, but maybe that's just me.
But more than that, is it spoiling the games? That's the concern. Is it spoiling the season games by putting them in the episode title?
No. I don't understand why it would if we're getting it downloaded to our games before we listen anyway. Or are you assuming that everybody's
on a different schedule, and
people still haven't received it?
Okay. So I guess you could assume that if they're listening, that they are ready to hear about what you're going to talk about. The other thing is they can also visit the Playdate website and see what's there, like what's to come. There's mentions of a few other games that are coming. I don't think there's specific week mentions.
They only add them each week. The games channel is only up through week 5 right now, which is where I'm at.
Well, I thought they had images of like some big brawny devil looking guy. It looks like knights and sword and sorcery, something or another coming up in the coming weeks.
When did you see that?
This past week.
That's this week.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It
doesn't.
Maybe
there's 24 games coming this season. They don't really. There's a couple of promotional images. Crankin', I guess, is kind of like the big picture that we saw coming into it. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I was going to ask you, Nick, like how many games do you know of that are still to come?
I know 0 still to come. So I'm really kind of clued into the spoiler talk because I really enjoy being surprised. So I'm not checking the Playdate site. I'm not really diving into the Playdate Discord even. And I'm just keeping myself fresh and free.
There's going to be such a limited life that this podcast is going to be a spoiler. Like before too long, everybody's going to have these games on their Playdates, and they can look back and sift through things a little easier.
The initial thought, and it does help with discoverability. If somebody's looking for talk about Crankin's time travel adventure, then they can search that and this would come up. Yeah. So there's an argument for and against it, and I'm not really sure one way or the other. One of the pieces of feedback that we had received previously was, talking about this in particular, but we are curious what listeners have to say about it. So if you don't mind, shoot us an email and let us know your thoughts, and we'll take that into consideration at the very least.
Definitely.
So where can they hit you up again? Is it HelloplayDate at Gmail or Helloplaydatepodcast? Or am I not getting it at all?
It's at the bottom of the show notes, Ryan. Helloplaydatepodcast@gmail.com.
There we go.
Or HelloPD Podcast on Twitter.
What about the Playdate line? Do we have that yet?
The Playdate line?
The
Not yet.
bingos line.
Yeah, the bingo line is in the show notes. All of our contact information is in the show notes. You can also join us on Discord. Let us know in person and live in real time.
So thanks in advance for any feedback we get from that. And Don, with that, I was curious, would you like to discuss some news?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's get it out of the way right away. Oh, before we do that, one piece of feedback that ties into what we were just talking about is we are going to push the season game of the week discussion to the end of the show. So if you want to hear us talk about other stuff, but you don't want to hear kind of that spoiler talk about the games of the week, you can listen to our indie talk and our news at the top of the show, and then the season game speech, talk, etc. will be at the end of the show, hopefully from now on. So we're going to try that out. So yes, Nick, what news do you have?
Well, Don, actually, you sent this, but the dev of indie game Ribbit Rabbit posted a interesting article about their first month of Playdate sales, and they broke down exactly what was involved with creating the game and putting it up on the storefront itch.io, as well as the number of sales, and it was pretty revealing. So they've sold $100 at $1 a piece, so that's 100 different users have purchased the game, which is pretty good, I think, for such a small format system. And the fact that somebody has to go out of their way to purchase and install this, it's pretty interesting, but it is revealing in a way. This is not a major console at the moment anyway, and so the numbers are going to reflect that. So any potential developers should probably temper their expectations as far as revenues are concerned.
Yeah, I'm always interested in hearing these sort of stories, especially you see these more in the mobile space, which I'm more in tune with. But it's cool that he had exactly 100 sales in 30 days, so he had like a nice round number. I guess he wanted to specifically roll it forward, like he was only spending money that he made on games to buy games. And Ribbit Rabbit is a game he published this 7 days ago. It's a game I purchased in the last 7 days. So, and I guess I'm kind of a big Playdate fan, obviously doing this. So it's still got legs. There are still going to be more people picking up the system. People like Ryan that haven't jumped into sideloading.
We keep badgering him about it.
Why you got to throw me under the bus, Don?
Well, there's still a potential audience there, is what I'm getting at. I mean, this might be something that you're interested in down the road. And the Playdate store has still not launched. So Ribbit Rabbit is a contender for being on the Playdate store someday when there is a store on the Playdate device.
Is there talk about an official store on device?
Yes, there is. Yeah. So games like Bloom that you currently have to manually update, when they're sold through the Playdate store, they will update automatically, just like the season games do.
Neat.
There isn't
really cool.
Nice.
People were talking about if it's going to transfer over from itch. There are ways to do that. I think with Steam or something. So that's still kind of up in the air if your itch purchases will transfer or not. But that's all kind of down the road. He also mentions that this game was mentioned in a Destructoid article, and Destructoid is one of the few blogs that I read regularly, and so this was put in front of my eyes there. And then him talking about this sales article put it in front of my face again, and then the Destination Playdate YouTube channel reviewed it. So 3 times this week I was like, oh, I guess I should check out this Ribbit Rabbit game. When there was just so many games, it was overwhelming. There's like 50 games the first day I got my Playdate, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to play 50 games today. So that's why it took me a couple weeks to get to it. So anyway, we'll put a link in the show notes to the dev forum article or whatever, talk about it. But pretty cool. Thank you so much to, his name is Kieran. Let's see what his, there'll be a link in the show notes to Ribbit Rabbit as well. But Reverend Malaric, I guess, is his dev name.
Dev name, right.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at these screenshots for Ribbit Rabbit. Tell me about this game a little bit, Don. It looks sort of puzzly, or is this a nitpick?
I'm glad you asked, because
what a segue.
That's my indie pick of the week. So Ribbit Rabbit is by Reverend Malaric, as Don mentioned. And in it, you are a rabbit who moves like a frog and is trying to catch a flying carrot. It's a carrot fly.
So real quick, how does the rabbit hop different from
Okay,
the
I'm
frog hop?
very happy you asked. So
It's almost like we planned this out.
Wow.
yeah, the differentiating factor is that one hop will be like a frog in that you move one space, and then the next hop that you make moves you 2 spaces. So the game is a puzzle game involving movement and obstacles within a given course. So there's 4 different worlds, each containing 10 courses, and each of those courses, starts to ramp up in intensity within a given world. And essentially, that movement pattern is really the main focus of the game. So you hop once and move 1 space, you hop a second time, you move 2 spaces, and then you've got to kind of figure out the looping figure 8 style movement that you need to make to get through each course. And then as you move from world to world, more complex movements and actions with the Playdate are required. There are some cranking sections involving platforms, and there are also some accelerometer sections where you have to balance the Playdate. So it's more. There's more to it than it might seem at first. Um, there have also been a couple of updates to the game. The developer didn't have their Playdate yet. I believe still doesn't, according to their itch page. So they've made tweaks based on people's feedback. There were a couple of crash bugs, and some of the sections were just too hard with the physical Playdate. So it's pretty cool. He's been very responsive and has made those changes and uploaded them. So I believe it's on version 103 at the moment. So I think it's worth a look. It's a really cool and unique puzzle game, and I like a lot of these games that involve odd movements, and that's really, the trick to getting through a stage.
That's
So-
really interesting about the accelerometer. I didn't remember that the Playdate had an accelerometer. I don't think any of the released games thus far used it, right? Or am I mistaken?
Well, as far as I know, up through this week that we're on currently, that's
Mhm.
correct. There are a few different indies that I've played that do use it, and to different degrees. So,
I didn't even know it had one until I started playing a game called You Cannot Go Back. And it
Mhm.
says best played in portrait mode when you start the game. And it has like a little arrow, a circular arrow. So I thought it meant to crank it. And so I was trying to crank it to turn the screen. And I was like, I don't get it. So I just kept playing it. And then I finally decided to turn it to its side and the screen changed right away. And I was like, what the hell? I had no idea it even
Wow.
had one.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I
They've
haven't played
got
any games where it's part of the gameplay.
Mhm.
They've got to release something from season 1 that features that, I would think. I mean, you'd think Playdate would want to, or
Mhm.
Panic would want to showcase everything that the Playdate has built into it.
There are definitely games that would work better if they used that instead of the crank. That chain gun game, for example, would definitely work better.
I think that would work better if, they changed the D-pad out for
Yeah.
accelerometer.
I even
Yeah, I
think
guess
one
that's
of
a better way to
our
put it.
I even think one of the games we're talking about this week might work better with the accelerometer than the crank,
Yes.
but we'll get to that. I won't. I'll
Yeah.
try to go along with your no spoilers for this episode.
We'll get there in a minute.
So that's Ribbit Rabbit. Don, you've played this as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I only played a little bit of Slimy Swamp. It reminded me of a lot of the Game Boy games that I got out of the KB bin as a kid. The puzzle games seemed to end up there. So like Dexterity, and what was that tomato game? Was it Quark or something like that?
Quirk, yeah.
Quirk.
Oh man, I love Quirk.
Q Million or Q Billion or whatever. Like a lot of those games kind of were in the same ballpark. I thought it was pretty cool. At first I thought like, oh, this is too easy. And then I was like, oh wait, I just jumped into the lake or whatever. Like this is trickier than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, it's a pretty cool game. So I definitely recommend it. There's also a demo. I don't see demos for a lot of them.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
either you pay or you pay what you want. And I was going to say when we were talking about, in his case, he made $100 because he charges straight up $1 or more. I saw one game where you could pay what you wanted, and the conversion rate was like 6% of people paid for it. Oh, I think it was Yacht, one of the Yahtzee games. 6% of people actually paid for the game, between $1 and $6.
I was going to say, I wonder, out of those people who paid, how many pay more than $1?
Yeah.
I wonder if 100 sales at $1 are more than 6 sales at, are they paying $5 or $10? Or I guess it would have to be more than $10 if they're going to make more than charging $1 for the game at that rate.
I think the highest was $6 and the default price was $2. And they said almost everybody paid $2. The default or the median price was like $2.37 or something, which is interesting that more people are paying more. I told Nick I accidentally almost paid $2,000 for some game the other day. I forget what it was, but Chain Gun, I think. I added a 0 on accident.
Or forgot about those decimal points, huh?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Ribbit Rabbit, I would also recommend. Definitely worth $1. I love how kind of cheap the games are. I expected everything to be in the Bloom sort of
I did too.
Realm of $10 games.
I'm also liking Ribbit Rabbit was a Pulp game. And I don't remember, this might be the first Pulp indie that we've discussed, but Pulp is the web-based development studio that Panic made. You just go onto a website and you can make a game. And it's pretty clever, and obviously it works pretty well. There are a couple of issues with the release version of Pulp in that it doesn't do version numbering properly at the moment. So certain games like Ribbit Rabbit, where there have been changes, you have to make sure that you delete it from your Playdate before uploading the new version, and delete it from the Panic sideload page before uploading it, or else it will not update, I believe. But yeah, other than that, it's very impressive that this game was made in that web-based tool. So, Don, what indie would you recommend this week?
I'm excited to be able to recommend Island, EYE Land, so Island. It was I uploaded it from the dev forums or whatever last week. I was really enjoying it, but it got an actual release on itch yesterday, I think. The developer, his name is Ron Lent. He's I think a graphic artist or just an artist. So I checked out his stuff on Instagram, and he's got a lot of really great artwork. But this was also made with Pulp.
And
really? Yeah. And he says it's a small wander around and figure it out game. And
my favorite kind.
Yeah. So I played the other day before I talked about it, and that's basically what it is. You're a little dude. You wake up. You're on a tiny island, and you have to figure out how to get off the island. So you get off of it, and then you're on a bigger island, and then you just walk around and figure out what you're doing. So I played for about 20 minutes the other day. Was really enjoying it. Put it down. There are no save states, so heads up. Yeah, I ended up playing through the whole thing today. I finished it just before we started recording. I'm glad I did. It took about an hour, I guess, to finish. So it's still not that long. And you can hit the lock button and, put it down. But if you start up another game, you got to start over. So I did it after replay that first 20 minutes, but I knew all the puzzles and I knew exactly what I had to do. So, so you're solving just different puzzles around an island. It's pretty neat. You do just kind of like, hey, I'm sleepy. Go find me coffee, just like a casual birder. So you got to figure out how to get the coffee. Then like, hey, there's something on top of this hotel. Figure out how to get to the top of a hotel, or figure out how to open this door, that kind of thing. And you wander around this little island and figure it out. The puzzles are pretty inventive, but they're not too challenging. There's small single screen puzzles. Like I said, it only took an hour, and I'm not that smart, so the puzzles aren't like that hard, but it's charming, and there is a little story. Nothing super heady, but it's just really like a nice, warm, cozy little adventure.
Cool. Well, I've picked this up on your recommendation, Don, and I can't wait to play it.
It does look really fun, and I'm popping over to the itch page, and it looks like the developer Ron Lent is really responsive. Looks like he's responded to every single person who's commented on the page.
Cool.
Game looks really fun too. I dig that. There's like an exterior lighthouse image, and then you can see the character sort of pops inside the lighthouse, and there's like some larger ghost in the mountain images. It looks like a really fun game.
He does some really cool things with the dark and light elements. Your character bounces from dark to light.
I might have to figure out how to sideload games.
I highly recommend it. I would put this as my favorite Playdate game.
Wow.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
It sounds like it's maybe in terms of time to complete, like Super Mario Land for the Game Boy. Like I feel like that takes about an hour to complete if you're running through it. Is that kind of the level of commitment we're thinking about here, or is it just very different because it's more puzzle and less platformy?
Yeah, this is more like a chill adventure, not like Undertale without the hard bullet hell elements. More like that kind of thing.
Undertale, that sounds like a game that was made after the year 2000, so I'm just going to smile and nod.
You gotta try Undertale, man. Ryan.
You're lucky I bought the Playdate. If it wasn't for Nick.
This is not a side-scrolling platformer.
Either.
This has side-scrolling elements and top-down elements, but I would not call it a platformer. Some of the puzzles are platform-y, like a what was it, Mario? Well, Donkey Kong 94, I guess.
Yeah.
Nick's favorite game. But it feels familiar, but it still feels fun. Yeah.
Now, Donkey Kong 94 might be my favorite game. I just still haven't tried it yet.
Right.
Is that the Game Boy one?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a wonderful game.
That's Nick, what everybody tells me. Yes.
You've not tried that? I need to send you my cartridge.
I believe I have a cartridge already.
Oh my god.
Nick, I replaced the battery and everything.
Put down the Playdate for a couple days. You got to try that.
Can't be done. I'm still growing flowers in bloom.
Someone will clone Donkey Kong 94 and call it like Play Kong 94, Donkey Play 94 or something. Any day now. Are you still playing Bloom, Nick?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my gosh. All right.
I believe I'm closing in on the end. The
$50 billion or something.
Getting your $10 worth out of that game.
Oh, yes. I've been checking in with it every day and growing more and more complex flowers. And it's really awesome. It's so great. I've already finished the main story. This is all like optional stuff that I'm doing now. And still enjoying it a lot. So every morning when I wake up, I turn the crank, check out my little flower garden on the roof. I come back down. I go to my gachapon machine, get my little capsule toy, and
you don't have 30 capsules yet, do you?
Here's a listener question. Here's a listener question.
Are you the listener?
Because I know that neither of you have gotten this far, but there's an Asteroids clone that's built into the game, which you can access at any time from your cell phone. And I've gotten a high score of over 1,000 points, and I felt so accomplished in that. And it turns out that's not the high score you need to achieve. So I have no idea what it is, but I feel very disheartened.
Oh, no.
If someone has made it there and can tell me, I would love to know, because then I'll be able to feel fully accomplished in this game. But otherwise, a perfect, wonderful game, and that is my favorite Playdate game so far.
Submit your Asteroids high score to the high score channel on our Discord.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one.
Cool. What should we talk about? Should we quit with these indies since we know Ryan doesn't have any, and talk about the season games of the week?
Yeah, I think it's time.
It is time.
So here's the spoiler break here.
Okay, we're back.
Welcome everyone.
Welcome. So let's start out big. Can I give a glowing recommendation for our first game?
Woo!
Yeah.
My favorite game of the season so far is Pick Pack Pup.
Wow, hot
Whoa.
take.
Nice.
I'm gonna go ahead and slot it in number 1 on my overall ranking. Pick Pack Pup.
Ah,
I'm gonna mess up. Nick messed with our show notes, so we have these nice little charts here, and I just screwed it all up. Anyway, Pick Pack Pup is basically a match 3 where you work as a dog in a Amazon fulfillment center, and you're trying to escape through backbreaking labor. And so you match different items together. When you match 3 or more items together, they are automatically packaged, and you tap the package, and all the matching packages you have on the screen get shipped off to customers. At a certain point, the bottom layer of the screen will get thrown in the trash. And actually, throughout the game's 30 stages, it adds twists and turns pretty much every stage, which is pretty
yeah.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say it's not every level that disappears the bottom line of packages. That mechanic comes in after a while, but you're right that it does continue adding complexity each level, which is something that I thought was really interesting. I almost wrote this game off when I first started playing it, thinking it was just going to be another match 'em up game, but every level had different twists and turns like you were talking about that just kept it very interesting to me. I completed the game in a day, and that's not because it's easy, it's because it was addictive. It was really
Compelling.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in between sets of stages, there are these little comic interludes, which I found very interesting. Um, and Ryan, as a comics artist, I was very curious what your thoughts were about that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to bring up too, is that it has this lovely element of storytelling, but like just the right amount of storytelling for me. I thought like it has these comics that you can crank through. I like this sort of scrolling crank element to the comics that they had. It was appropriately sized so that there wasn't more than like a couple panels per tier. Like that's about all you can see as a tier at a time as you scroll through.
Mhm.
So they weren't trying to jam too many panels on the page where you needed to like bring it up to your face to read it. Like I feel like I have on a few pieces of text on some former weeks Playdate games. This was really easy for me to read and enjoyable. Like the illustrations are really fun, and yeah, so I've really enjoyed the comic element. That's something I was going to bring up. And in addition to the chapter break comics, which I think there are, 10 of them or so over the course of 30 levels,
Mhm.
um, they also have every level like memos that show up. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's like very minor story. Like it's enough story to understand what's going on, but then like masked as here's the new twist in what you need to do in the game. It was only a memo page or two long, and then you're right into the gameplay. I thought it was really nicely paced and kept me wanting to understand the next level, understand the next rung of the story, like all one and the same.
So I also really love this game. However, one of my great gaming weaknesses is Puyo Puyo, and
Oh.
there's a stage far into it which requires some dexterous combo action, which I am
Mm.
particularly bad at. Um, and it's very Puyo Puyo esque, and so the whole time I was kind of cursing that stage. Why are these Puyos here? But it's not exactly Puyo Puyo, but it's similar in concept. So that's the only downside to the game that I found. I really also love the aesthetic. I love the storytelling. I like storytelling in any kind of game, even if it's a puzzle game. So I was right on board with it from the get go. The only other thing, which this isn't exactly a critique, but just something I probably would have done differently, is at the end of each comic, you have to dock the crank, which is certainly, an
Mm.
action that you can take to finalize something. But I felt like a button press would have been
You don't
just as
have to, Nick.
effective. What? Really?
I thought you had to too, and I was like, "Well, this is so dumb." It tells you to dock the crank, but you don't. You
Yeah.
can just hit A.
Okay, well, that's on me for following directions, I guess.
I mean, if you want that crank flopping around, come on, guys, clean up your crank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rarely dock the crank, so it's
Me too.
it was kind of jarring to have to do that after each stage. But now that I know you don't have to do it, actually that adds to my excitement to replay it at some point here. And check out all the millions of different modes that the game has, which we haven't even discussed.
Right.
Yeah. Before we get into modes, I wanted to talk about a couple fun spoilers. So, a spoiler alert for anyone listening who doesn't want some latter stages spoiled. I don't know, fast forward a couple minutes. But there's one stage where it makes this like meta reference to the Playdate, saying that you're shipping games, and then one of the icons is the Playdate itself. I thought that was a really fun self-referential stage that they built in there.
Mhm.
And then there was another one too where these like top loading puzzle games are very Tetris-esque. And then another stage, the things you're matching were those Tetronymos. And
Yep.
I really enjoyed these like self-referential, gaming referential stages that would show up every once in a while. I thought that was really clever.
Hmm.
I'm gonna allow it. I won't edit out that spoiler alert there. You
Kept
didn't
it
spoil
within
the end of the game.
kept it within 2 minutes too.
There you
Um,
go. Yeah, so I did want to also mention that I love the memos. The memos, they were humorous, and
Mhm.
they're always fun to read. They gave you,
Mhm.
hey, we're doing an insurance scam, so we need you to trash as many packages as possible. So it always sounded like it was ribbing big corporate culture, and I appreciate that. So
And
the different
plausible at the
modes,
same time.
yes, the different modes. Check this out. Tutorial, story, infinity mode, chill mode, danger zone, time attack, read comics, stats and high scores, and settings. This is like the most full featured Playdate game I've seen too. Like this feels like a real Playdate game at all times. When you hit pause, it doesn't just bring up the little Playdate menu, but it also pauses the screen. It doesn't just stop the play on the gameplay, but it brings up like a real pause screen where it shows you your objectives for that stage,
Hmm.
which I haven't seen
Hmm.
many other games do. Usually it's just a layover or a cover. Like here's
Mhm.
the Playdate pause menu. But this one brings up a separate menu, like, hey, these are your objectives. And I haven't seen that in other games. Not that I've noticed anyway. And I really appreciated that because sometimes I would just forget, what am I trying to do here? If it was something that was challenging or going on for a long time. And I
Mhm.
felt like, what's my goal here? I've been playing forever. So I really appreciated that.
So, Don, what do the different modes do? Because I have not experimented with any of them outside of the story.
So I've only played Danger Zone, which I think had bombs,
Hmm.
and you can't let the bombs touch the bottom of the screen,
Okay.
if I remember right. Time attack is, I think, 2 minutes. You have to make as many matches as possible. Chill mode, I don't
I
know
think
that
you're
I've
just going
tried chill mode.
indefinitely on that one, trying for a
That's
high
infinity mode.
score. If I, oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Where you're chasing a high score?
Yeah, I don't have a score for chill mode when I'm looking at my high score chart, so I haven't tried that one. There's so many modes, I haven't even tried them all.
Maybe chill is unscored. You just keep going. Chill out, man.
I mean, I could try it, but let's chill and match as many items as possible. That's all he says.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then just you can ship as many items as possible. Oh, it just keeps an average of how many boxes you ship at once. This might
Oh,
be a good one
okay.
to show mom when you bring the Playdate over or something. I mean, everybody understands a match 3, so. Oh, and then he makes little comments. You always have Pup sitting there making little comments, or kind of he wags his tail when you're doing well, or he starts sweating when stuff's about to get trashed. It's such a legible game, and that's something Ryan
Yeah.
brought up. Like everything is so legible, easy to understand. It almost feels like when on modern games when the controller vibrates when something bad's going to happen. Like him sweating is such a, even out of the corner of your eye, like, oh crap, I know something's going to happen. I gotta ship my packages right now or they're gonna get trashed. The tells are really, really good. So I don't want to go on too long, but Pick Pack
Yeah.
Pup, just top
One
to bottom.
one last thing that
Yeah.
we we tend to neglect is actually talking about music in the games.
Hmm.
Now, I normally only play with the music for a brief period of time. I play rather late in the evening and usually don't have headphones on. But what did you all think of the music?
I played Nick mode when I was playing. I
Okay.
played silent, so I can't comment on this.
I find myself playing mostly with sound on with the Playdate.
Hmm.
I'm usually in Nick mode too. I very rarely play anything with sound on, but with the Playdate, just that little speaker and the wide variety of volume settings,
Hmm.
it's just easy to click on and off. I do like the music, but I don't like it after a while. I found the main theme gets annoying after a while, the main music, so I turned it down. I That's something I did want to bring up. So while I like it initially, um, it's not something where like a Tetris theme you can listen to for 20 years and you don't get sick of it. After a week, I was like, okay, I'm good with this guy.
Okay. And does each mode retain the same theme?
If I rem- if I remember right, like I kept noticing, like, okay, I don't like this song. Like, I think it was the same song each time. Maybe that's something
Okay.
they could update.
Yeah.
But we didn't mention who made the game either.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna butcher his last name, Nick Magnier. Magnier. I'm sure it's not Magnier, but it's spelled Magnier. And Arthur Hamer, and then music by Logan Gabriel. So I don't know what other games they've made. I was looking at their Wikipedias and whatnot, or not Wikipedias, Twitters. And Arthur Hamer did the art, so you can see a lot of the art replicated on his website. And he actually spoils what Ryan just mentioned right there at the top of his Twitter page, so I don't feel too bad. And then game designed by Nick. So, and he's a senior game designer at Ubisoft. Nick is.
Oh,
So maybe he's made some of my favorite games of all time.
No wonder this is so good.
quite possible.
Yeah.
Speaking of Nick, Baldridge, where did you slot this in your Playdate roster?
Well, we that there's a time and a place, Ryan, and that's after we talk about our next game.
Oh,
Oh, is that right? I,
Yeah.
I thought Dawn
We
already did that.
we
Oh,
do our global
I
rankings at
jumped
the
the
end.
gun.
Yeah.
okay.
I was so excited.
We do have an exciting addition, though, listeners, in that Ryan has also created his global rankings. So we'll go over all those here at the end. But before we do, let's talk about the next game from season 1, week 3. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
This is week 3?
Yeah. Because we've got 6 games so far. These are
Oh,
games
that's right.
5 and
Yeah.
6.
I guess I could look at the numbers.
Here for you.
Anyway, season 1, week 3, Lost Your Marbles by Sweet Baby Inc. And
I've got a synopsis. Do you want me to
yeah,
read
go
that
ahead.
off? Okay, this is a quick synopsis. Lost Your Marbles is a charming visual novel where the role of a marble makes all the difference. Join Prota in this branching narrative adventure as she makes her way through Pomegranate Village on a quest to find her lost dog Minty and make it to the annual festival before the day's end.
Mm-hmm. Accurate.
Accurate, yes.
So I'm a big visual novel fan, and so this game might be more in my wheelhouse than the others here. But I did want to say that the mechanics are pretty interesting. Aside from the visual novel aspect, there are sequences where you have to use the crank to manipulate a level, a la Super Monkey Ball or the labyrinth toys that they make, where you rotate multiple dials to change the physical aspect of the game that the ball is rolling upon. And you have to break light bulbs, which are littered throughout the stage. And so there are usually, I think, always 3 different light bulbs that you can break. And there's 1 which is good and 2 which are not good. And so you're trying to get the good one and figuring out the puzzle.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, figuring out the way. See, this is why it's good that we talk. figuring out the puzzle that's involved with getting to the good light bulb is really the gameplay hook.
So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure
Yes.
visual novel, but then the gameplay allows you to choose which direction you go.
Correct. And so everything involves balls pretty much. The Festival is the big festival of balls that happens apparently each year in this town. It's pretty quirky and fun. The art style is relatively easy to distinguish different objects. I would say that I do have a little thing to pick against there where I'm not really. There are some elements which are a little harder to see, especially in a low light situation. But the actual mechanics of rolling the ball and seeing the space that it rolls around in are very easy to see. And when you're rolling the ball and manipulating this world, it's pretty easy to just go hog wild with a crank and start like flipping it 180 degrees up and get really frustrated. But actually, the range of movement is somewhere in the like 30% mode. And so as I was playing, I had the crank down and then would just move it back and forth and tried to figure out, how to navigate the different stages. Of course, I made mistakes several times and, got, for example, a magic 8 ball one time instead of the good item, which was something else. And the way that the visual novel elements are structured, everybody just carries on with whatever you pick, even if it makes almost no sense. And some of those responses were pretty funny and fun. So I did enjoy this game. It was not it's not a fantastic visual novel, and there's a lot of agency in this game, more than most visual novels. So if you're coming into this as a visual novel reader, there's a little more action than you might be used to. And if you're coming into this as a monkey ball / labyrinth enthusiast, it may also disappoint because of the mechanics are very precise. So that's my thoughts. What do you all think?
I'm shocked when you say that there was one good thing to pick and two bad things. I found all three were always like nonsensical.
Really?
That's what I don't know. It's like, what's the tallest thing? It's like string cheese, and I forget the other two. It's like, yeah, whatever. I don't know, string cheese. I always found myself just picking whatever because I would always try to unlock all three so I could see what the three were.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really trying hard to remember any of them where one of them was better than the other two.
Yeah, I feel like there was sort of an obvious winner of the choices to choose from. Like once you make visible each choice, I feel like the most difficult choice was usually the one you want to pick. I don't know if you felt that way too, Nick.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Yeah, it challenges you to choose the right one. It's not just the first gimme light bulb that you find in the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Was it always like the sun or always the star, always the moon? Do you know?
I don't. I couldn't discern a pattern, and I was kind of running through the game, so I didn't make special note of that. Ryan, did you happen to notice if there was a pattern to?
I didn't even know there was a star and a sun and a moon. I thought it was just light bulbs. Were there icons inside the light bulbs, or what are you talking about there?
Once you smack them, they have different icons
inside.
Oh, I just noticed the words that pop up next to it when you bonk it for the first time.
Yeah.
I don't know, like when you start out, I felt like some of the stages there were more exciting. Like there's one where it seems like you're going through a cabinet or something. There's like some brooms and some books or boxes shoved over. So there's a little more like you're going through a maze and whatnot. And then at the end, there's one with like moving platforms that I thought was pretty fun to try and thwack the light bulb. But in the middle, it was just like, whatever, just try and get through the stage. And
well, did you enjoy the pinball one?
didn't even pick up on a pinball one.
Well, there's a pinball one.
that's pretty rough. I don't know. Like I felt like now that seeing like this is a charming visual novel, maybe if I'd gone in knowing like the visual novel part was the meat of it, maybe I would have had a different outlook going in.
Experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like that was so wacky. Like the visual novel part, the dialogue and whatnot was so wacky. Like you're talking to an alligator and a cactus and whatnot about a wrestler, and it like
Yeah.
it made no sense. So I was like, whatever. I don't know what this is about. Let me just find my dog. I didn't find it that engaging. Like I was reading it, but it just seemed like bizarre. And I initially when I made like the wanted poster for my dog, I loved that. I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like that's why I was asking you guys, like, what's on your poster? Take a picture of your poster because I knew that my choices mattered. But then every other choice I made through the whole game, I felt like I'm just picking random adjectives or random verbs. Like I didn't understand what I was putting together. I didn't feel like I was making decisions. And there wasn't enough gameplay. Like I feel like the gameplay was kind of fun, rolling the balls up and down. But like I said, the first levels and the last levels were more fun. And I feel like if there's a whole game of just those, that would have been more fun. And maybe time trials or the score associated with that. So it was like half good visual novel, half good action game. But then like the two coming together didn't really work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the animation and the art, but then I didn't care about the story and it was like too weird. So I know this game isn't for me, and I know there are people who are going to love this game. And I saw people on the Discord that said they hated the first playthrough, but then when I finished the game, it's like, oh, you found one of 10 endings, and it shows like this big chart of all the things you like check marks. You made this path, but you missed all these other paths. And they said they hated the first playthrough, but then they grew to love the game as they tried to get all the endings. Like, oh, well, maybe now that I know what the game is, maybe I will enjoy it on repeat playthroughs. And it's short enough that it's not a huge commitment to play through it again. I think it put me at an hour and 6 minutes or something like that for my first playthrough. So anyway, I just talked a lot. I'll let you guys get back to it.
Ryan, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like on concept, this is a good game. Like a visual novel, sort of multiple choice endings, choose your own adventure type of thing. Like all of that sounds to me like I would enjoy it. But for me, I'm kind of in the Dawn camp on this one. I don't think this game is for me. And I think it's because of a couple things where this game fell apart for me. One, I was going in expecting a game. And I think Don hit the nail on the head when he said if they had marketed this as a visual novel, like if that was part of the title, like then my expectations would have been set. But I was going in thinking this is a game because that's all I've got on the Playdate so far are games. They're not books or, I'm not sitting down to read when I pick up my Playdate, at least what I thought. And so for me, it was really heavily weighted on the visual novel portion. And I just kept like pressing A through the whole thing, trying to get to a game, which took a while I felt like it took a while to get to the gameplay. The second part where I felt like the game really fell apart for me is there's this gameplay aspect that's based on physics. And, as a pinball person, I enjoy physicality of games and accurate physics. And I felt like this ball rolling around really did not adhere to natural laws of physics. And that frustrated me too. So for those couple reasons, I had a really hard time with this game. So again, I think if it were marketed a little differently, like, hey, this is a visual novel and there's some gameplay thrown in, rather than me going in expecting it to be a game, which, was only like, I felt like less than 50% of the game was a game. It was more visual novel than game, in my opinion. And then secondly, if there were some more accurate physics, I found it really difficult to control the gameplay in those modes. I understood that you had to limit the movement of the crank in order to get it. And Nick, I wanted to piggyback off of something you said, that you were doing the crank in the down position. I tried that initially, and personally, I found it easier to maneuver if the crank was in the up position. But all that to say, you can maneuver it in the up or down position.
Right.
But there's a helpful hint along the game somewhere that says, only move the crank in half the position. So when I was having trouble in the down position, I thought, well, maybe it works in up too, and it does. It does work in the up position, but yeah, those were the couple main points where the game fell apart for me. Again, just not my type of gameplay element, but if you like visual novels with some gameplay sprinkled in there, hey, this could be for you. Something that I did really enjoy about this game was the artwork. I thought it was really quite polished, actually. In fact, I'd go out on a limb and say it's it might be the most polished release to date in terms of artwork. It had
Mhm.
this really like professionally illustrated manga anime type style to it, and so that I appreciated.
The way Proto acts at the end of the game, where you can see like I guess actually her facial expressions, I really liked. Where she seems like she's looking side to side and whatnot. I thought was really funny.
Mhm.
I agree. Like this is probably my favorite artwork of any game this season.
Yeah, same.
Well, I did enjoy the gameplay. I will also say it might benefit another playthrough for you all, because some of those middle stages, for example, there's like a sandwich shop that you go into, and the whole shop is themed within the stage. So like you're flying up a soda
Mm-hmm.
straw, or going underneath the sub wrapper, whatever. Um, so there's almost every stage is themed in some way. Um, and they all did adhere to the tenets of the story. Um, the story, I definitely agree, uh, took a lot of weird left turns. Part of that might be because of the answers that were being given, though, and that's something I didn't realize there were so many endings. So that might make me revisit it as well.
Maybe I picked the worst examples in each try.
String cheese is the answer for everything. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, you just brought up something interesting. So I've been thinking about a game that I wanted to make, and
mhm,
having it be a black and white, one pixel or 1-bit game. I just keep thinking like this is really going to be hard to do, or this is going to be limited. They might be in the same boat where a sub shop or a soda straw might not read the same in black and white as it would in color, even on an NES or something.
mhm.
Like a soda straw would be very iconic, just red and white stripes or something, but it doesn't read the same way when you're just blasting a ball around trying to hit a light bulb.
That's a good point. Yeah, I kind of went in looking for it, and I guess that's why I saw it. Not
Yeah.
sure. Um, but
Did you
I
guys?
I got
Oh,
to that stage. I saw it too. I recognized the iconic elements of the cup and the straw and things like that. So I think it read all right. At least I
okay.
was able to understand it.
Okay. Did you guys listen to the music on this one?
I had it on in the beginning and turned it off. That I try to give everything a few minutes of music, but
Okay.
I usually don't go the entire time. Uh, it seemed to me that the game tended to return to a single theme frequently. Is that
Mm-hmm.
correct?
I don't know if it was the same song, but it was always the same instruments, and it was like
Hmm.
this weird mouth harp kind of sound. It was rough. The sound effects were great, but the music itself, I was in a bad place with. Um, anyway, so interesting game. I and now I'm kind of encouraged to check it out more. And so I was thinking, like on the one of my favorite podcasts is the Film Junk podcast. They rate movies every week, obviously, and every year they allow 2 6 out of 5s. Like I
Hmm.
love this movie so much, I give it a 6 out of 5. Maybe if we had a mulligan, like this movie, I put it at number 20. It ended up at number 20, but I went back, I revisited it. I think it should be a number 4 for the year, something like that. Maybe we kick around an idea like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Talking about this, I was like, maybe I will end up liking this.
that'd be interesting. And that brings us to the last phase of our podcast, the last transformation of it, which is our overall ranking of the season. So This week we have a new addition in Ryan, who has added his global rankings. But Don, let's start with you. What are your current rankings of season 1?
Yeah, I've got Pickpack Pup at number 1, Casual Birder, Boogie Loops, Whitewater Wipeout, Crankin's Time Adventure, and I've got Lost Your Marbles at number 6.
Fair enough. For me, it's Casual Birder is number 1, Crankin's Time Travel Adventure number 2, Pickpack Pup number 3, Lost Your Marbles number 4, Whitewater Wipeout as 5, and Boogie Loops as 6. Ryan, how about you?
Cool. Yeah. I'm going to start mine at the bottom. Number 6 goes to Lost Your Marbles. And above that, I've got Boogie Loops. And then number 4 is Pickpack Pup. But that's only because there's 3 such strong games at the top. Pickpack Pup I really love, but it seems weird to say that's number 4 out of 6. Number 3 is Casual Birder for me. I like Cranklin's Adventure. I refuse to call it anything else. It needs to be called Cranklin. And I put Whitewater Wipeout at the top because it is the game I keep going back to every single day. Just before we were recording right now, I hit a new single surf high record of over 200,000 on one surfboard, not 3 surfboards. So like I am still encouraged to continue getting better at that game. It's such a perfect crank game. And I feel like one of the things that I didn't mention this, but as much as I love Pickpack Pup, I like it very, very much. It wasn't much of a crank game. The only time you use the crank in that game is when you're scrolling through the comic story, 10 times throughout the 30 levels. Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that Whitewater Wipeout relies so heavily on the crank. I'm also discovering new and different ways in which you use the buttons in that game. Like, those helpful hints. It tells you press up as you are about to leave the wave. And I think that allows you to catch even more air as you're going up, so you can make those quads a lot easier. I still have not hit a quintuple. I'm not sure if it's even possible. But I keep feeling like, man, if I press that up and hit it just the right angle, maybe. Haven't done it yet. And the other thing it says is to press the left and right buttons on Whitewater Wipeout to, I think, spin faster. And I can hear it when I'm pressing it. It gives you some audio feedback when you're pressing those left and right buttons. So I feel like I'm doing something better when I'm pressing those buttons and cranking. But yeah, Whitewater Wipeout just really has captured my attention. So that's my number 1.
Fair enough.
Very good. Yeah.
We'll see if that budges throughout the year.
Yeah, I might use my mulligan on
it. One thing that I like and want to remark upon is that all 3 of us have very different lists. I think that's pretty cool. With only 6 games, I'm really curious to see how we end up the season together.
Well, I'm excited to see the next 4 games filter into these lists. Good stuff.
Cool.
All right. Well, on that, we will go over I guess we should go over our little stuff here. You can reach us, Helloplaydatepodcast at gmail.com. On Twitter, HelloPDPodcast. Instagram, HelloPlaydate. Our website, Playdate at playdatepodcast.com. I gotta learn get the momentum down here. Get the cadence down. Yeah,
we're only 3 episodes in. That's okay.
I know, we'll get there. The bingo tip line. Nick has a very successful bingo and pinball and EM bingo podcast.
I've missed that. That. Yes.
Nick has a phone number. You can leave us a voicemail on his very generous bingo tip line. 724-246-4671. That's 724 bingos 1. If you want to leave us a voicemail, all of that information will be in the show notes. Yeah, we'll catch you guys next week.
Hey guys, just want to say thanks so much for having me back. This is always a blast to be on here with you.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening.
Good night.
Nighty night.
Bye.